Greetings, YouTube. I've stated many times on my channel that I consider social conservatism to be the greatest danger to our species that's ever existed. And I stand by those words. Social conservatism is the foundation of every act of bigotry that has ever happened on this planet. It's never been an act of bigotry that just sprung out of nowhere. It's been built on a foundation of inclusivity and exclusivity, because that is how social conservatism works. There has to be an excluded community that is away from the included community. The us versus them. The us group is, of course, always right, perfect in every way. The correct people, often, ordained by God. He'll throw that angle in there on more than one occasion. And the other group is evil, stupid, barbarians, unworthy of human rights or civil liberties. And it's not difficult, once you've established that particular narrative, to do really atrocious and horrendous things to other people. In fact, strip them of the name people. Treat them as little more than animals. And that's happened many times in the past, and it's happening now. There are people in this world right now enslaved. Not necessarily being called that, but that's what they are. They have no choice. They must do labor that they are not properly reimbursed for. They are slaves. And I'm not just talking about the wage slaves in America. I'm talking something far worse than just economic inequality. And that exists. And it exists because one group can say us, and that group over there is them. But inclusivity is not a swear word. Inclusivity is the opposite of social conservatism. Inclusivity says that everyone is worthy of human rights and civil liberties. Doesn't matter where they are. Doesn't matter who they are. Doesn't matter what their ethnicity is, or their sexual orientation, or their gender identity, or their religion, or their political affiliation. None of that matters. They're still worthy of human rights and civil liberties. Now, if, say, their involvement in, say, a particular a particular political party means that they're harming people, then everything should be done to curtail their capacity to harm. But they should still be worthy of human rights and civil liberties. And that is an idea that is anathema to social conservatives. They despise that concept. It is a stake of holly through their heart, as Scrooge might say. They cannot tolerate the idea that everyone should receive the same rights and privileges, same protections. Because the in-group is the group that is defended by the law but not beholden to it, while the out-group is policed by the law but not protected by it. You see that in America right now. Black people in America get a much different shakedown in the legal system than do white people. And it's not just socioeconomic, it's pure and simple racism. The very nature of policing in America is founded on racism. The earliest cops grew out of slave patrols. It's always been this way in America. And no one seems to care. It doesn't seem to bother anybody. Of course, it's becoming more visible as time goes by that there's definitely some divisions in the justice system. People have begun to march in the streets, protest. They are defending the rights of others. They're even defending the rights of people that are not like them. For example, I'm a really white dude. I am the whitest white dude that ever walked out of White Town. I get much more paler. I'd be translucent. And yet here I am talking about inclusivity, which includes black people, brown people, Asian people, Native American people. I'm a straight dude, and I'm talking about making sure that the entire LGBTQ community is protected, including the trans community, even though I'm cis. And cis is also not a swear word. If anyone has a problem with the words cis or trans, blame the Romans. It is not a new invention. Inclusivity is strength. Inclusivity makes us better. It shows everyone that it's okay to be who they are. Are there limits to actions? Of course there are. But those limits should not be placed upon people for who they are. There shouldn't be a separate set of laws that apply to black people than white people, or to straight people and gay people, or cis people and trans people. That's the opposite of inclusivity. That's exclusivity, which we need to eradicate. And I will say to my dying day that until social conservatism has been eradicated, no one's really going to be free on this planet. Because so long as one person is being oppressed and suppressed, none of us are free. We've seen that in America. There have been a tidal wave of laws attempting to disenfranchise the black community. Why? Because the people in charge of the GOP are terrified. Because if every single person in America voted in a free and fair election, they would be wiped out, and they know it. And the people who they represent, the billionaires, really want them to stick around. As opposed to the progressives such as myself, who think that everybody should have the same rights and privileges, should enjoy the same civil liberties. And if another group is given the same level of human rights and civil liberties as you haven't lost anything in that. It's not a water scale here, you know. It's not if it goes down on one side, it goes up on the other. No. Your rights and your liberties are not impacted if someone else gets the same rights and liberties. You lose nothing. Now, you may lose that I'm a really special little boy concept in your head. Okay, so sad for you. Call a therapist. But your inability to accept the reality that everyone is deserving of human rights and civil liberties is not justification for stripping them of their human rights and civil liberties, contrary to what you might believe. And if the only way your political party can exist is creating an other, that's gay people, trans people, black people, Antifa, side note, Antifa stands for anti-fascist. If you oppose anti-fascism, what does that make you? So, inclusivity is the healthiest thing we can do. A little bit of a side note. I like metal. I like knives. If you have a knife that it's pure iron, absolute pure iron, it's not all that useful. It's not going to hold an edge, not particularly strong. But if you add the right kind of things to it, if you add in the other ingredients that are required, you get steel. And steel is strong. So it is iron plus all the other things that go into it that helps you end up with something that is really useful. And we as a society are better off with a wide spectrum of members than with a very narrow margin. We're better off if everyone can look around and see themselves in the community, see themselves in places of social importance, teachers, directors, writers, musicians, see themselves in positions of power, CEOs, politicians, clergy, they see themselves, they can then understand that they can aspire to those things as well. If there's only white teachers in America, what does that say to the black community? If there are only white clergy, what does that say to the black community? If there are only straight people in the positions of power of business, what does that say to gay and bi people, or agender, or asexual people? And if we only see a binary of genders, when we know that that isn't the truth and never has been the truth, how do you think that's going to make some 14-year-old kid who's trying to figure out where they fall on the gender scale? We need to see ourselves reflected in the world of the flesh and blood, and in the world of entertainment and media. We need to include everyone. Because I got to tell you, steel is a lot more useful than iron. And I'd like to live in a world where we have useful, functioning institutions, strong as iron, that protect everybody, that defends everyone's human rights and civil liberties. That seems like the best path to take.